Hi, this is Ruth Theresa with One Inspiring Woman, and today we're going to be talking about past lives. I get asked this question quite a lot about past lives. It's kind of an interesting one, and I think it's kind of something that people always have an interest in. And the more people have an interest in it, the more I get asked this a lot during psychic readings, group readings, all that kind of stuff. So, we're going to be talking about past lives and any questions you have about past lives. I'm not going to be answering your specific question. I'm going to be answering questions in general, I guess is the best way to put it. It's just not a good format to kind of like ask personal questions. But this is kind of a really fun one, a great one to kind of like get into the season because we've got a lot of other planetary stuff that are going to be bringing up past life stuff for us. So yay. Let me play my promo and we will get started. I'm excited. That's right. We've got our promo done. We are going to be talking about past lives, and really, past lives are a concept that really refers to belief that a person's soul or spirit has lived many lives before their current existence. And I think a lot of people have that, even if it's one of those, it's not necessarily in traditional religions or anything like that. A lot of people believe in past lives, but they're not sure why they believe in them, or they have a concept of like, yes, I think I understand why we have past lives or anything else. I will tell you kind of one of the energy of it is kind of like we're always kind of like continuing our soul's journey. So our soul kind of reincarnates multiple times, and kind of a best way to put it is kind of like to understand or to learn lessons. I often tell people kind of like Earth is the really, really hard place to live. It totally is. It's totally a hard place to live. It's kind of where we go to school. It's kind of like where we go to kind of learn different concepts and learn how to deal with other people's energy, those sort of things. But usually past life ideas are really common and associated with kind of like spiritual beliefs, sometimes religious traditions, depending on what religion. I will say it's kind of more like a Hindu, Buddhist, and then, of course, most closely kind of like New Age beliefs. I will tell you that kind of a lot of people believe in different ways to connect to your past lives. Hello, Miss Sandra. And kind of getting in touch with that kind of like, there are certain techniques that you can do. To me, it's one of those with my clients. I will tell you, I kind of deal with this in two different ways. I do a past life regression meditation, usually with my clients, especially if they've been in my psychic classes. They get to kind of see their past lives. They get to really connect to their past lives. And I think it's most important that that person gets to see it. I think that's the important part. It's great for me to kind of, if someone asks like one or two questions, that's not a big deal for me to answer them, and I can answer all of them. But it's one of those, I think it's like stronger, more important when you kind of get to see it for yourself. When someone else tells you about it, it's kind of like, well, I didn't see that accident happen, so I'm not really sure. This is what so-and-so said. So that's what they end up on it. But when you get to go into the past life regression, when you get to see it, when you get to feel it, sense it, kind of like, and you connect to it, it's like a totally different level. It is totally a different level of how do you connect into this? How do you connect into that energy? How do you connect in this way? So it's kind of like, okay, very interesting. I think that's kind of one of those like, here we go. I will tell you, I think usually when you start adding more people into like your past life regression industry, or or not industry, but kind of like perceptions, is kind of like how is that person relating to that information? Because how we relate to any story is how do we learn that in our life? Did we learn all people are this or all people are that or whatever it is? What are they seeing and how are they interpreting it? That's a very important one. I get asked lots of questions. So if you have any general questions about past life regression, I will definitely take those on. I will tell you that sometimes in past lives, you will get kind of like symbolic Hello, Miss Linda. How are you doing? Kind of the cool part about past lives is that everybody has past lives, even if you don't believe in them, you really do have past lives. So that's kind of the cool part about it. But a lot of people have like different ways of exploring past lives. And like I said, I think kind of the interesting one is sometimes when I was a little kid, I had tons of past life regression dreams. So I really had like dreamt of different things when I was a kid. Like I dreamt that I lived on a big ranch. I dreamt that I lived in a harem. I dreamt that I lived out in the Wild West. I dreamt that I lived and everything else. And at the time, as a child, I didn't understand what all of that meant. I was like, just having some great dreams, but not really understanding that, wow, my soul is connected to this and my soul is really reaching out for this energy, and I really am connecting to past lives because the dreams felt really real. But as a young child, you don't really understand like how does that connect in or how does this deal with it. So tell me if you've ever had a past life dream. A lot of times when you do, it has a lot of like really vivid imagery in it. And a lot of times it will bring up a lot of emotions for people as well. Like they will feel sad, angry, upset, I'm saying in that meditation, it's like, oh my gosh, all of this is coming in at once. It's not necessarily coming in at once, but you're connecting to that past life. So that energy from that past life is coming through. So let me know if you've ever had a past life dream. That's kind of an interesting one. And a lot of times you will have past life dreams, but you'll have them like you may have one month and one the next month, but it's the same past life. Or you could have like a couple of them in a row to kind of like you're being triggered by something in your current life that's bringing up that past life information. So it's kind of like interesting. One of the next ways to kind of really get into this is kind of one of those interesting ones is the like intuition, kind of looking at it. The memories are always locked inside, your soul's inside of you, so you can kind of like bring that up. Sometimes people bring this up, and I almost feel like it's like an interesting kind of intuitive way to do it. But a lot of times when you're meditating, you will have past life information just kind of like coming forward, even if you like didn't necessarily ask for it to come forward, it will come forward in some amazing, interesting ways. Especially if what you're going through in your current life is that energy of like what's going on. So Linda's saying, yes, an Indian girl living with Indians in teepees. Okay, I love that one because I've had several past lives with Indians, and that's kind of the fun part is like sometimes like I was able to kind of identify one group that I had a past life in, but not all of them. So a lot of times I will go back to that same dream and almost kind of like, okay, angels and guides, can you bring this dream around one more time? Let me see it one more time. And looking at like, where are they on Earth? Does it make sense? Like, are they in the mountains? Are they in the plains? Are they in the woodlands? Like not woodlands, but like woodland area. So it's kind of like, where is that energy? Like, what do you see around them? What kind of trees are there? That can kind of give you an idea of like what Indian group you were with. So that's kind of like an interesting part of it. And sometimes it's fears can bring them up as well. So if you have fears, deep-seated fears from a past life, you can bring them into this life. This can come in some kind of interesting ways. Let's see. I had a client not too long ago that was always afraid that her husband was going to leave her. Now, he was completely in love with her. Are you saying, are you seeing the woodland area, kind of like grasslands kind of area? Is that where you saw the Indians? Because that may give you some hints or ideas of what group you were with. I'm talking to Linda online because that's kind of the cool part is kind of figuring out who you were and who you were in a past life. That can be, hi, Miss Jennifer, kind of an interesting ones. That can kind of like looking at the trees, looking at like the other things around you, kind of like taking note of, do you feel hot or cold? It's one of those, can give you some ideas, like what are the clothing options that they're wearing, kind of like what kind of animal skin. So that can kind of tell you like where that is. So it can kind of like narrow that search down a lot in that area. Also, fears that come up can be one that can really help you kind of narrow down some past lives for you as well. If you have a fear of like avalanche, then that usually means that you had a past life in a very icy area. If you've had a past life where like there was a flood and a lot of water came through, that can kind of give you some ideas. That can be certain places. If there was like a tsunami or something like that, that can tell you like, okay, you were probably on a coastal area, that sort of thing. So that's kind of the cool part about it. Hello, Miss Sharon. We are talking all things past life. I will tell you, when you start kind of getting into past lives, that can bring you into a lot of amazing energy. So she's saying tan Indian clothes. That would probably be like deer, which is not really going to help you narrow it down too much, because kind of deer, there were different types of deer everywhere. But I will say, if there's something else, tan Indian clothing doesn't really give you enough information. So kind of like what else is on there. And sometimes if you remember, like on the teepees and stuff, they will have different animals depicted or something like that, and finding one that looks similar, and that might give you some help, hints or suggestions as well. Past life readings can be something that people really seek out, and it's usually dealing with something that fears them, some type of fear that they're having with that so that can be like, wow, this is really interesting. These readings can be like a very helpful tool and gaining insight into like patterns or issues that may be rooted in past lives. So a lot of times when I have a client that is dealing with something in their current life that they're not able to deal with, it can be like bringing them into other energies, or kind of like bringing out things. Hello, Mr. Sayok. How are you doing? It's been a while. I hope you're well. So past lives can also bring that in. And I will tell you, usually where past lives affect a lot of people is in relationships. Like like I said, if you've had a relationship in the past where someone, usually a husband or someone went to go hunt or went off to war like that, and they never came back, that can be like, oh my gosh, I'm afraid he's going to leave me, or he's going to pass. And sometimes it happened a lot when people were not even traveling that far away from their home. They could have died from whatever causes, and then they never showed back home. So it's kind of showed up back home. So it's like, okay, where did my husband go, or where did my wife go? Where did that person go into? That can give you a great one, and kind of just like give you that idea. I've had several clients that have had past lives where they are dealing with things that are coming in from past lives, like they're triggered in this life and it's triggering something from a past life as well. So they're like, oh my gosh, this is overwhelming. And that can kind of give you some deep insight into what were your past lives, what were you learning, what were you trying to understand during that time frame. But when you go into a past life and you're seeing it for yourself, take as many clues as you can. So this could mean what type of grass are you standing on, or if you're outside. It can also bring in like if there's mountains, what kind of trees are around you. If there's buildings, is there any distinguishing marks or buildings that you can do? Jennifer's asking, how do I know what past life is most prevalent in my life today? Ask. That's a simple question, Jennifer. Ask. If you are really trying to do a past life regression meditation or something like that, I often allow my students to choose their life that they want to go into. And you can just literally ask that question, like, I want to go see my past life that is most important to this life, or most like is going to tell me the most about what's going on in this life. It can also come in with show me a life that I've had with my husband, brother, sister, mom, dad, niece, nephew, grandparents, whatever it is, to give me some insight into the relationship I have with them today. So that can be a ta-da kind of energy of like, yes, this is where we're going. This is that energy of like, where do we go with all of that? I think some of the kind of the interesting questions I think is really interesting, especially if I have someone who's like, they're like, oh, I can't believe that I've been, if they're a female in this life, they're like, I didn't realize you could be a male in a previous life. Yes, you can be male or female in any life. You kind of get to choose. You can be any color, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can be Asian, you can be Japanese, you can be Indian, you can be Native American, any of those are like options for you. There are tons of options out there. Also in past lives, kind of interestingly, people will really sometimes show up with a past life that's from an alien world. So that can be really amazing to give you that insight of, you've been on an alien planet, you lived on an alien planet. I've had people kind of, I don't want to freak out, but kind of, hello, Miss Nat, kind of freak out a little bit of like, oh my gosh, I love, they'll have a dream that I would, they were on a planet where everybody was like a green alien or a gray alien or whatever else. You're very welcome, Miss Jennifer. I think past lives are something that like people have a lot of interest in, but they're maybe not sure how to do it. There is like, you can go to a hypnotherapist, you can do that. And that is totally a great thing to do. I have never done that. I've always been able to do it as a dream or kind of bring that up as a meditation. So that's just me in particular, but there are people that will go to hypnotherapist to kind of give you that. And I just tell people, like, make sure it's someone who is reputable and someone who is really experienced with that, because there can be a lot of fears brought up in a past life. So that can be kind of like interesting. I think past lives are just one of those interesting things, because we kind of feel like, oh, this is our only time that we've been on earth or whatever else. And it's like, no, most people, clients that will ask me about like how many past lives they've had, usually that answer comes out usually anywhere from like 1,500 to 1,800 past lives. That's what I kind of get. For the most part, there are people that have way more, and there are some people that have way, 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 way less. And it's just how you think about things and how you deal with life and how fast you want to come back. There is no like, oh, you only get so many years up in heaven and you got to come back. No, you can take as long as you want. You can linger as long as you want, kind of that sort of thing. So that can be a very interesting energy in that. Now, for myself, like I said, I will do past, my preferential way to do that. I know so many now, like so many. Yes. Past life regression meditation is probably my best love to do with clients, because they get to access their memories. They get to see it or hear it or feel it themselves, not just me telling them what's going on. You can kind of relive parts of it, so it can be a little overwhelming at times. And it can also be very healing as times of kind of like bringing in a new understanding, that sort of thing. You can also follow themes into past lives, themes like abandonment, themes like trust issues, themes of like being cheated on or cheating, being the cheater, kind of like cheating a lot of times. You can also return to past lives and kind of bring in like new healing, new understanding, new kind of like ideas and healing, that sort of thing. So I kind of really think that's an interesting one. I often tell people, like, if you're in this current life, and I'm just showing this for like basic reasons, and you don't know how to ride a bike, it's the best way to put it. If you don't know how to ride a bike, you can go into a meditation, into a previous life, and pick up that information and then bring it back to your current life. So that is kind of like a very interesting one. Nat is asking, yes, past traumas too can be something that can come up. And it really depends on how traumatic it was. Some traumas where you would be like, oh my gosh, this person will never get over it. They get over it quickly. You'll be kind of like, oh, I had no idea, kind of energy. I will tell you that sometimes that can be something like past memories of kind of resolving like issues, traumas that are affecting like your current life are really an interesting one. Hi, Mick. I'm going to call it Mick. Mick. Um, as accessing like memories, bringing healed states, kind of that sort of thing, because that's kind of can bring up a lot of dramas and traumas and that sort of thing. And I will tell you, sometimes there are themes like you can literally go back in lifetimes. I met a client, I want to say 3 or 4 months ago, and not only did she have a narcissistic mother in this lifetime, she had a narcissistic mother in her last like 4 or 5 lifetimes. I was like, why do you keep picking these crazy people? That's kind of the crazy part of this. That can be the overwhelming part. That can be like, wow. I will tell you, healing a lot of past life stuff can be amazingly awesome. It can bring in such healing. But has anybody ever had a past life dream? A dream where you've went to bed at night, dreamt about um, something that happened, and it kind of just didn't feel like a normal dream. It had like a lot of emotions with it. Maybe it had a lot of very vivid parts or aspects to it. Those are usually past life dreams. You're dreaming in a past life, usually without yourself knowing that you've done it. That's kind of the cool part. But it's one of those, I think that's kind of the like, yeah, past life dreaming can be very interesting. And usually after I do a past life regression meditation with clients, they will, for a number of like days to weeks out, also have past life dreams, kind of like filling in more of the spots, because we in a meditation you don't really have time to do a whole bunch of them, so it's kind of like we do a couple of different age groups to kind of give you an insight into your life. But a lot of times what they'll start doing is kind of filling in that lifetime. There was a reason why they picked that lifetime. There was something that they really had to learn or understand about that lifetime, and so that's kind of one of those like interesting kind of thing. So it's kind of like, yes. I will tell you, one of the ones that I also get a lot, like especially even in dreams, is sometimes when you go into a past life, you will kind of like pick up that energy of like being stressed now, but once you kind of realize like you've already been through in a previous life, that can like really calm or relieve that stress or phobias. And a lot of phobias start out from past lives. I have a past life that I got eaten by a shark, and I still don't like sharks. Just don't like them. I just don't like them. I don't like them. So it's one of those, it's a phobia. I know it's there. It's gotten better over the years, but it's still there and very prevalent. So Nat is asking, I have a lot of dreams where I am living in houses where there are families that live there. Not like a hostel, but similar concept. You share the kitchen and you have your own wings of the home. That's an interesting one. I often tell people, when you have like recurring ones come over, like ask if you can move forward or backwards in time. Now, some people do this easily, kind of be able to move in and out of time frames with their past lives, especially in dreams. You can move forward or backwards. And I almost think of it as like a VCR, like the old VCRs, like, let me rewind this minute, let me fast forward this minute, kind of give me some little bit different like perspective of it. Because sometimes you keep going to the same section. I was like, but I've seen this section. I need to see a new section. I need to see something more different what I've got right here. So that's kind of an interesting one. One of the things I think is interesting too is I had a client that I was working with, and she had been working on a book in currently in this current life, and she would get to a certain part and she couldn't get past it. She would like, I've kind of like 2/3 of the way written this book, but I can't get past this. I just can't get there. And so she was like, I think it comes in from a past life. So I was like, ta-da, let's go look at that past life and see what we get. And sure enough, we were able to kind of bring that out, of kind of bringing that to the, saying being able to see that and give her a new perspective. And in a previous life, she was writing a book, and then she died when she was about 2/3 of the way through the book. And it never got finished. So it was kind of like, here's my life work. I've been writing this whole time, and I never got anywhere with it. So it's kind of like interesting. Um, that's kind of the way things are going. Kind of interestingly. So Nat is asking, like, some of the ones that she's had, like people living in the same house. I will tell you, kind of common houses like that, or kind of like boarding houses, were very, very common in like the 1800s and early 1900s. I've seen a lot of people have those, especially related to New York. They would send their daughters or sons because they wanted to be famous in the movies or famous on Broadway or whatever else, and they would send them to there, and they'd be in a boarding house. So you're kind of still in that mom situation. It's just not your mom. So that can bring in a little bit of a different energy with it, and can also kind of bring in a new understanding, like, wow, asking about what the other people do sometimes can do that. So I often tell people, like, interact with everybody else and kind of like, what other information can you get, or insight into that. So I'm going to do some angel cards. Kind of thing. Oh, Nat is like, I live in Buffalo, New York. Okay, that was very prevalent there, Miss Natbug. So let's do some angel cards. If you have a question about past lives, post it. We've got a little bit longer. This is the card that's coming up forward. The first one I get is, this is Sagittarius, and this is about expansion. When you really start working on your past lives and kind of getting to that energy of understanding your past lives, or wanting to understand more about your past lives, that can bring in amazing energy for you, amazing insight of, like, what's coming in at me, what do I require knowing about this life, and how does it relate. I often ask my angels and guides, like, show me how it relates to what's going on in my life now. This one's upside down. This one is the 8th house, and this is the mystery. And I think that's kind of maybe one of the reasons why past lives are always energetically on our mind. It's one of those, like, it is a mystery. Before you're born onto earth, for each lifetime, you kind of wipe your memory in that area. Maybe not 100%, but they do wipe it, so you're not like always going back and trying to find someone from a previous life, that sort of thing, and finish things. It's kind of like, let's clear it out. Kind of an interesting one. Here we go. Next one is Chiron, healing. This is a big one for past lives. Is it can bring in such amazing healing energy for us. Healing of giving us a new insight, a different perspective. Because a lot of times, like, when we're dealing with something in our life now, we can get overwhelmed and like, oh my gosh, this is overwhelming me. This is too much. This is too much. Yet at the same time, when you kind of look at it from a perspective of a past life, you're kind of not in it. You're kind of like separate from it. So you're kind of like, oh, I can see where this would be overwhelming. I can see where this would be upsetting to someone else. So that's kind of one of those interesting ones. The next one is conjunction, and this is the alliance. There is always an alliance between your past lives. There's always some type of continuity. Now, not everybody reincarnates with the same family over and over again. It just doesn't always happen. There are families that do. I call them my little pod people. They kind of all get born, like, some people are grandparents, some are parents, that sort of thing. And so that can bring in a lot of energy. And I've done a lot of videos on past lives. So if you have some questions, we can do that in the videos. But I would also say, kind of try to do a dream, or try to ask one of your angels and guides before you fall asleep, like, what is a past life that would teach me about what's going on right now? I will say that's kind of an interesting one. But I will also say, stepping out of your comfort zone. If you really have a lot of past life questions that you really feel like you need to get answers for, schedule an appointment with me or anybody else. It doesn't matter. Make sure it's somebody that you trust. And it's one of those, like, that's the cool part. You can bring in healing to yourself in some amazing ways, because that can really push you kind of to change things. Not doing the same things. Like, I've done this in the past. It's kind of one of those insanity, doing the same thing over and over again and hoping you're going to heal. Try it. This one is the North Node, and this is all about the future. When you go back and heal your past life a little bit, it's going to push you and propel you forward. So once you kind of really heal the past, it brings you forward into it. And there is a reason, and we're going to end on this one. So one of the most important things is, yes, past life energy is amazing and it is great to understand. But understand also, your rearview mirror is this size. Your windshield is this size, because you should be looking forward way more often than you're looking in the past. Yes, it's nice to go to a past life regression or go to a therapist and kind of clear these things out, kind of look at things, but you don't want to drive around looking at this little mirror in front of you. You want to be driving around looking at the windshield. That's the best way I can put it. It's like it can overwhelm people for a period of time until you get those answers, and then it's like, now you can release it and let it go. On the promo that I'll play in just a second, there are some dates of what's coming up next. I think next week I am having 2 of my advanced students come, and they're going to be questioning me about all kinds of crazy information. I think aliens are part of it. Past lives may be part of it. There are some other ones, and I will post that out kind of when they give me. Won't give me the questions in advance. They're going to give me some topics so I can let y'all know what those are. And then on June 15th, I will be answering 1 psychic question from each person that joins in, for as many I can get in that period of time. So if you're a regular, you get advanced kind of warning about all this coming in. And I am so excited that y'all joined me this evening. I thank y'all so much, and I know that we'll be talking again soon.